Okay. I apologize for the abruptness of starting videos, like, as of recently, but I'm still trying to get all this stuff working, and it's still a little difficult to just kind of get it to work properly. And I apologize also for the longness, the length of the last video. It was like 11 minutes long, me just going on about apologies here, and it being, you know, me being gone forever there, and it was sad, and it was very emotional, and it went on forever. So I apologize for that length, if any of you actually watched that. I'm pretty sure no one did. But, so anyway, what I want to talk about today is enmity between Christians and unbelievers, and how we are to love our enemies. Because Jesus says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. But what does that mean? Does that mean, you know, love, does that mean other Christians are going to persecute, you know, some Christians, or Christians are going to be enemy of one another, but you need to love them anyway? Like, who exactly are the enemies of Christians? And so I think, and bear with me here, I think the enemies of Christians are unbelievers. I don't think there is a single Christian who is an enemy of another Christian. And if there is, if you're a Christian, you're like, oh, I have some Christians who are enemies of mine, I think you need to kind of work on that, really. Because the thing is Jesus says in John 17, when he's praying to the Father, Father, let them be one with one another as I am with you. They are one with one another, and let them be one with me as I am with you, so that we are all one. So Jesus illustrates Christians as being one with one another, and as being one with Jesus Christ, because there's only one Jesus Christ, so, and there's only one God, who is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And if they're all one, and we as believers are all one with them, then we as believers are all one. So Jesus asks the Father to let all believers be one. And we're told in the epistles many times to be like-minded, to be, you know, have the same spirit, have a kindred spirit, have kindred minds. And the reason for that is because we have the same spirit. What do I mean by that? For me, basically, okay, like, me and the two viewers who are watching this, hi, two viewers who are watching this, I want to tell you, you and I and the other viewer, the three of us, we have different spirits, right? Of course. We have different souls, and we are different people. However, we all obtain, as Christians, if you are Christians, you two viewers, we all obtain the same Holy Spirit as Christians, as believers. And we all obtain one Spirit of God. So if we all obtain one Spirit of God, and we're all, you know, we're all Christians here, and we all obtain the same Holy Spirit, that would mean that basically enough, we all are one, right? You following me? So if we have, because we have the same exact Spirit of God dwelling inside of us. He has sealed us, He has saved us, He has justified us, He has sanctified us, He's going to glorify us one day, and He is holding all of us, and He is dwelling in each one of us. And He is the same Holy Spirit who did this to all of us. The same Spirit inside all of us as believers. So, basically enough, if this same Spirit is dwelling inside of us, that makes us one Spirit. So if we're fighting with other believers, we really need to knock it off, basically. Because look, if the word for Christians originally meant little Christs, as to call us literally little Christ. We are Christ Himself, because we're one with Him, right? And this is not to say that we're as great as Jesus. Jesus says no servant is greater than his master. He flat out tells us we're not as great as Him. We know that. We're totally aware of that. That's not what I mean. What I mean is Jesus has so closely identified Him with Himself, and so given Himself. He has so closely identified us with Himself that that we are actually called Him. He has given us His justification, His righteousness, and He has cleansed us with His blood, and has thus brought us into the family of God and identified us with Him. So because of that, that kind of makes it so we are little Christs. That's why Christians means little Christs. So whenever you're fighting with another believer, you're actually kind of fighting with Christ. You get me? Like, I mean, like, I realize some of you are going to be like, Josh, you're going way overboard with this. You're kind of going way far into it, but bear with me. You got to bear with me, because for the most part, this is pretty biblical. So, actually, not just for the most part, pretty much all of it. But, you know, so if we are at enmity with one another, that's why when Jesus said, what did Jesus say? It was Matthew. In Matthew, Jesus said, whoever accepts one of these little ones accepts me, right? So, that when Jesus is saying that, Jesus is saying whenever you accept a believer, another Christian, whenever you accept them, whenever you receive them, you're receiving Jesus Christ. You are accepting Jesus Christ. Why? Because believers are one with Jesus Christ. They are part of him. So because of that, whenever you reject another believer or you're at enmity with another believer, then you're at enmity with Jesus Christ and you're rejecting him. Now hold on a minute. Only unbelievers are at enmity with Jesus Christ. Only unbelievers hate Jesus Christ. We know that. But what does it say about us when we're at enmity with other believers who are literally a part of Jesus Christ? We're then at enmity with Jesus Christ, who is them. Now, what's that? Now, what does that mean for us? Okay, I just want to. That does not mean that we're at enmity with Jesus. That does not mean that we hate him. What that means is we're focusing too much on the fleshly aspect of our faith here, instead of the glories of how we're all saved by the same Spirit, and how we can all be like-minded and live in unity as a church. So if we all actually follow up on what Jesus said, then no two Christians should be enemies. But so then, who is our enemy then? Who is the one? Well, Jesus tells us. He says, pray for those who persecute you. Whoever persecutes us are our enemies. He says, bless those who curse you. The people who curse us, the people who persecute us, the people who are enemies. He mentions all three of those, and all three of them. I had it out of camera. That was weird. Like I said, I don't know anything yet. I said in the last video, but I don't know anything about this camera stuff yet. So if I do stuff like this and I'm saying a number, it's because I'm just really, really stupid. So Jesus equates persecutors, enemies, and what was the third one? Cursers as people who are all our enemies, meaning they're all three one. So what do they all have in common? They're people who are unbelievers. They're people who hate us. They're people who persecute us. They're people who curse us. So what does that mean for us? That means that unbelievers are our enemies, right? Why are unbelievers our enemies, though? That's the main question. Why are unbelievers the enemies of us? Jesus said in Mark, no servant is greater than his master. And that is verbatim. And he says to us that they persecuted him, they crucified him, they killed him, they hated him. So they're definitely going to hate you. Why? Because you're a part of him. Because you're with him. Because you're so closely identified with Jesus Christ that you're called a little Christ yourself. So you're going to be hated too. Why? Because Jesus Christ is better than you. So if Jesus Christ is better than you, and he's greater than you, and you're much lesser than him, and yet you're actually called Jesus Christ too because you're so closely identified with him, then they're going to hate you a million times more. So they're going to hate you just as much, if not more. Why? Because they hate God, and you are part of God. You are with God. You are one with God. And God saved you. God adopted you. And what does the Bible say? The Bible says that all unbelievers are at enmity with God. All unbelievers hate God. They hate God with a passion, hate God with a burning passion. So the fact that you are with God, that you are so closely identified with God, and that you are called a little Christ, and that you are part of him, and that he's saved you, and that you are literally this close identified with him, means that they're going to hate you too, because you're part of him. That's how much they hate you. That's how much they hate God. So I mean, that makes them, since they're the enemies of God, and since they hate God, enemies of us. What characteristic do we always see in enemies? They hate each other. That's what characterizes enemies as enemies. You hate them. And that's what characterizes unbelievers as enemies of us, because they hate God, therefore they hate us. So that's pretty much, I just wanted to clarify on that kind of, and I realized it took me like nearly 9 minutes to do so, but I think there's a huge misunderstanding in the church today as to what enemies of Christians are. Because today we kind of seem to say stuff like, oh, well, so-and-so is my enemy, or, well, they're a Christian. Well, yeah, but I mean, we kind of got in a disagreement, but no, you should not be enemies with other Christians. We have the same spirit. Our true enemy is people who hate us, people who hate God, because they're enemies of God, and we are part of God, so they hate us too, and they're enemies of us as well. So, what does that mean for us? What is our response to people who hate us? Well, whether they're persecuting us physically, whether they're torturing us, whether they're imprisoning us, whether they're just blaspheming God, whether they're just cursing us, whether they're just simply being an enemy or just simply hating us and within their hearts, whatever they're doing, whatever way they are showing hatred for God and hatred for you, that's not relevant. The point is to always bless them, always pray for them, always love them in turn. It doesn't matter if they're persecuting you, killing you, murdering you, scourging you, torturing you, or just talking bad about you, or just anything really, whether it's physical, verbal, or whether it's just simply saying it inside their mind, thinking bad thoughts about you inside their mind of how much they hate you, whatever it may be. The point is you are to always bless them and pray for them and love them, even in the darkest hours of persecution and being killed by them. And I know that's hard, but you know what? It's not going to be as hard. You know why? Because Jesus says in that hour when you're being persecuted, don't worry about what you're going to say or what you're going to do or what you're going to speak to them, how you're going to respond, if you're going to do this or that. Don't worry about that. Why? Because the Holy Spirit will come upon you in that hour, and in that hour, the Holy Spirit will literally give you what to think, what to say, what to do, how to react. So what's that mean? That is a promise of Jesus saying, you are fleshly, you are sinful, therefore you can't do this on your own. I just got all Barack Obama on there. You are fleshly and sinful. But anyway, you can't do this on your own, as I was saying, because you're a sinful flesh human being. You're weak. And that's why unbelievers, whenever unbelievers are attacked and asked, are you a Christian? They deny it and say, no, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian. And they deny it. Why? Because they're too weak. Because they're in the flesh. Because they're too weak to stand up for God. Because they are weak. And they don't have... But the thing is we need to not... I said like weak like 3 times, so I apologize. I'm going to stop saying weak from here on out. But we as Christians need to not, ridicule unbelievers and say, oh, they're weak. Because the thing is, I said it, I need to say it sometimes. The thing is that we Christians are just as weak. Now, why is it that we Christians can still withstand persecution? Because Jesus says, in that hour, the Holy Spirit will give us what to say. He'll give us what to do. The Holy Spirit is literally the one supplying us with the strength during persecution. And it's going to be a strength that you're not even aware of. That's why he says, in that hour, don't worry about what you're going to say. Don't worry about what you're going to do. Because in that hour, the Holy Spirit will literally come upon you in that hour, within that hour, and he will give you a strength that you've never been familiar with, and you will have a peace and a strength that is beyond human comprehension, that is clearly from God himself. I mean, I'm serious. If you look like at all like the old what is the Fox? Is that pronounce it? Fox's Christian martyrs. If you look at the books of Fox's Christian martyrs, the response to these people who are being persecuted is like they're singing hymns. They're glad. They're joyful. They're calm. They're collected. And is it hard to go through persecution? Absolutely it is. Was it hard for all of them? Absolutely it is. Some of them even said that, like John Bunyan, that leaving his family and being in prison for 12 years was like peeling the flesh off of his own bones. It's hard stuff. But the thing is they reacted with such peace and love. Why? Because the Holy Spirit came upon all of them, all those past martyrs, and the past, in Fox's book of Christian martyrs. The Holy Spirit came upon all of them. The Holy Spirit gave all of them strength and power and peace in that moment. The Holy Spirit helped all of them through that time. And so don't worry about any of that stuff. Simply pray for people who hate you. Pray for them, love them, bless them. And all in all, don't worry about what's going to happen when you start getting persecuted, or if you start getting persecuted, or when you start getting tortured, even if it's the most severest of torture, even if it's the most horrible and horrifying and most traumatizing of torture, even if it's to the point of death. Don't worry, because the Holy Spirit will give you strength in that hour. He'll give you peace in that hour that you yourself can't even comprehend. Peace beyond comprehension. And so yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover right now. It's been 13 and a half minutes, even though at the beginning of this video I actually apologized for making a really long video last time, and then this one's actually about like 2.5 minutes longer. So I want to apologize for just not only making another long video, but pretty much going back on my apology. But anyway, so I'm going to close this up. I don't really have any cool thing to close up my videos with, like any cool catchphrase to end it with. So if you guys want to, if you 2 viewers out there who are watching me, thank you 2 viewers, by the way, for being my 2 viewers. I love you guys. I support you guys. You're my friends. The only friends I really have. I don't really need anybody else. That was a weird voice. I'm sorry. That got creepy. But if you guys think I should do a really cool catchphrase in my videos, because it feels a little abrupt and weird to just say, alright, I'm done, bye. So, I'm trying to think of like a cool catchphrase or something I should end each video with. Then if you guys could think of anything, comment below, tell me what you think I should do, I should end each video with, what catchphrase I should say. Yeah, I can't really say like, most of the cool catchphrases are already taken by other Christian organizations. But anyway, it's about to hit 15 minutes. I can't go beyond that, so bye.